Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler. It is July 25th, 2018. Thank you for joining me for another climate change and clean energy video blog. Now, for this segment, I am going to talk to you a bit about electrical vehicles and present trends in electrical vehicles, particularly with regards to Tesla. But what I want to do before I get into that is, again, reiterate why reducing fossil fuel burning is such a critical issue when it comes to human-caused climate change. Now, this graph that we are looking at here is from the IPCC, and it shows the sources of global greenhouse gases from human emissions. And as you can see, the primary contributor to global warming and global carbon emissions is carbon dioxide, which accounts for 65% of greenhouse gas emissions, and which primarily comes from fossil fuel burning. In addition, we get a chunk of methane from fossil fuel extraction and natural gas pipelines and processes related to the fossil fuel industry. So in total, the fossil fuel industry can roughly be equated to approximately 70% of the global carbon emission. And so, unless you deal with that, you can't deal with human-caused climate change. Now, there are other factors involved, such as harmful forestry practices and harmful land use, and other industrial gases and nitrous oxide emissions, which come from other processes. But unless you deal with fossil fuel emissions, you're not dealing with the lion's share of the problem. So it's helpful to do things like reforest and work on changes in agriculture to reduce agricultural carbon emissions, and to work on various gases used in industry and nitrous oxide emissions. But again, the lion's share comes from fossil fuel burning. Now, if you're looking at economic sectors, the primary economic sectors involve electricity production, so basically generation, industrial uses, and transportation and buildings, in total representing about 66% of all carbon emissions. Now, agriculture, a portion of agricultural carbon emissions come from fossil fuel burning, and the rest involve land use, so you can also add a chunk of that. Now, looking at transportation, electrical vehicles are kind of a big deal in one respect, because they are 4 times more efficient than internal combustion engines. And in addition to that, electrical vehicles also are based on large-scale battery production, and large-scale battery production is helpful for storing energy produced by renewable energy sources, which produce clean energy in the electricity sector and for industry. So there's a synergy between the electrical vehicle revolution and reducing greenhouse gases from numerous sectors. So that's one of the reasons why I am so keen on supporting Tesla, because Tesla's business model is that it is an all clean energy corporation. It does not produce anything that uses fossil fuels directly in burning for energy sources, and it's a heavy electrical vehicle producer. And in addition, it produces energy storage systems that can be mated to wind and solar. And finally, through its acquisition of SolarCity, it is also a solar power corporation. So no fossil fuels in Tesla, and that's one of the reasons why it receives so many attacks from so many sources. Now, an example of attacks that Tesla tends to receive come from so-called Tesla shorts, who are predicting all forms of doom for Tesla. And the present doom Tesla narrative, which in my opinion is a false narrative, is claiming that because Tesla is adding vehicles to various different storage sites that people don't want to buy Tesla vehicles. Now, presently, Tesla, in fact, sells every car that it produces, and in fact, it has a buyer for the car before it's produced, and there are waiting lists for most Tesla vehicles. And in fact, at this time for the Model 3, for all versions, there's a 2 to 4 month waiting list and more than 450,000 people currently on the reservation list. So, but along with this short interest comes people who are trying to profit from Tesla potentially failing. And one well-known Tesla short by the name of Montana Skeptic was recently outed as, well, one, he was this was an anonymous person, and he was recently outed for his real identity. And according to this report from Electric, this individual was associated with, of all things, the oil industry. And I recommend that you dig into this about Montana Skeptic. Montana Skeptic is an example of just one Tesla short, and there are many. But his outing this past week was kind of a big deal in clean energy circles. Now, some other news about Tesla is Tesla recently deployed power packs to Samoa, which is allowing the island to transition to 100% clean energy. And it's doing this by mating wind and solar and hydroelectrical power sources with batteries so that it can provide renewable energy coverage 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Now, Tesla has provided both energy storage systems and solar systems to other islands such as Kauai, and energy storage systems to nations like Australia, which is helping to increase the renewable energy portion of electrical grids. Another new bit of news with regards to Tesla, which is interesting but not surprising, is that there is a certain company that's trying to slow down electrical vehicle uptake. And I'll give you 2 guesses and 2 seconds. 1, 2. Okay. So the company that is trying to slow down Tesla and support internal combustion engine vehicles is none other than Saudi Aramco. Yes, Saudi Arabia, one of the largest oil producers in the world, is publicly trying to slow down electrical vehicle adoption, which wouldn't be very good for the climate or for the rest of the world, but hey, you know, do anything you can to defend that bottom line. So, not really a surprise that fossil fuel industry leaders are enemies of Tesla. In any case, recent reviews, including this one from Motor Trend, are now hailing the Model 3 as one of the best vehicles ever produced. And according to Motor Trend, the Model 3 is the most important vehicle of the century, and the high-performance hierarchy has been rattled. The European marquees perennial atop the sports sedan podium are about to have trapdoors released from underneath them. So, not a very good prognosis from Motor Trend for Tesla competitors, particularly those that use internal combustion engine vehicles. So we're running out of time here, so I'd like to go ahead and briefly show you that electrical vehicle production is surging in all places. Germany is showing a 23% increase in electrical vehicle production for June year on year, which is a pretty big jump, but not as big a jump as in some markets. So it's worth noting that Tesla is not a major player in the German market, showing that there are a number of players as well in the electrical field, and all clean energy vehicles are certainly welcome. Now, for one final point, a lot of Wall Street analysts are shorting Tesla, but one major Wall Street analyst just noted that Tesla has serious upside potential and is expecting major gains in Tesla stock in the third quarter due to large deliveries and major revenue increases. So that's an update for Tesla and clean energy in general. And thank you for joining